Hello, craft beer friends, and welcome to Season 10, Episode 1 of Tap the Craft Podcast. I am Denny Lewis, coming to you from Boise, Idaho, and my partner in craft, the dog whisperer, and my favorite Florida man from Tampa, Florida, Mr. Chris McKenzie. How are you doing tonight? And of course, what is in that glass that I see you drinking out of?
Well, it's been a long day of running around, getting stuff done, and it's just been a little nuts. But you know what? I didn't drive 20 hours to get home like Matt Knight did. He just hopped on here and said he was going to lurk while he was unpacking. They were here in the Florida area and drove 20 hours to get back to Rochester.
No way. That's crazy.
They had the kids and it was for camp and all kinds of stuff. But
oh, wow.
God bless you and your patience, guys, because that's insane. But anyway, in my glass this evening is a beer that we can't get here in Florida and that I wanted to consume because I'm heading to the West Coast soon.
Nice.
So I'm going to need space in the fridge for it. Now, if you didn't look at my notes, any idea what this might be? If you could just see the top of it.
Well, I would say either a Deschutes beer or one of the Fremont special beers.
You're a very smart man, Denny. We've got coconut and cacao barrel-aged Dark Star from 2022.
Nice. Oh, sweet.
And I picked this up when I was in Las Vegas last September, and I'm going back again in September. So I need room in the fridge. I can put more beer in it.
So you're enjoying this one. That's good.
Yeah. I will be enjoying this one throughout the show. I'm pretty sure this is going to be my...
only beer?
My only beer. My only, 24 ounce bottle of 14%. I'm sorry, 13.5%. Excuse me.
Oh, 13.5. That's nothing. Come on, man.
Child's play. Yeah. My dog could drink this better than I could.
Oh yeah, he'd laugh at it.
Yeah, he's sleeping over there in the corner. But that's what's in my glass. What's in your glass, Denny? And how's your day going?
I'm doing fantastic. But let me talk about my beer in my glass first, and then I'll talk about why I'm so fantastic. Let's see. I'm drinking a Fort George 3-way IPA. Ooh. This is the first one released in 2023. It's got some nice koi, or I guess it's koi fish, with some disc jockey turntables on there, like riding a roller coaster. Kind of like a really wild thing with some. That one's got some headphones on his ears there. Like a whole rockin' theme here. But this is a collaboration. Again, I drink these 3-way IPAs from Fort George every time they come out. Recently, I guess they've been releasing 2 versions, a hazy version and a West Coast version. I have the West Coast version. I haven't had the hazy version yet. This is a collab between Anchorage Brewing and Cellar Maker Brewing and Fort George.
Oh.
And it's 7% IPA, and it's great. Like all their Fort George beers are always, these 3-ways are always good. And this is actually my last one of a 4-pack that I bought. And I didn't realize I had in my fridge still. And I was looking for beers thinking, what the heck am I going to drink tonight? And I found that this was in there. And I said, you know what? I haven't talked about 3-way IPA this year. So that's what I'm drinking. Now, how am I doing? I'm a bit tired. I told you guys in the last episode, we bought a travel trailer and we broke it in this weekend, took off Friday and went into the woods and camped in the Frank Church Wilderness area outside of Stanley in the Chalice Forest, National Forest. And we just, we went out 6 miles into the dirt roads and found a spot next to Beaver Creek and set up camp with some friends. Had a great time. Broke the trailer in. Everything went pretty well. We did make a couple rookie mistakes,
but
there's always going to be something's going to go wrong. So we got the trailer all ready. We made everything was working. I checked everything. Got the fridge working 24 hours before, so we put our food in nice and cold. Got everything in there, and then we took off. And it just so happens, a little side note, the people we bought the trailer from, they didn't empty their black tank, their poop tank before we sold it. So I decided, you know what, we're going to go dump this thing on the way out of town because I don't want to take a chance of, so we went and I did that first thing. And I, that movie RV with Robin Williams, and they have that big poop fountain thing going on. Not me. I was like a pro. I nailed it the first time. I show up early in the morning thinking, and I get there, nobody's there. There's a spot in Meridian that gives free dumps, but normally it's pretty packed.
I usually do too. That was too easy.
and so we show up in the morning and no one was there. I'm like, all right, this is great for my first time. I'm gonna roll in here. So I roll in, I grab my hose, I go to start to hook it up, and now an RV comes right next to me. I'm like, okay, well, now both sides are full. And then as he pulls in, another trailer behind me, another trailer behind him, I'm like, oh, now the pressure's on. I haven't even started, and there's two people behind us.
We're gonna watch you mess it up.
Yeah, but you know what? I didn't make a mistake. I did everything right, no mess, everything pumped out, empty and good. And I flushed everything, rinsed everything, put it all back, made sure there was no mess. And then off we went. So that went well. We get about halfway there, and we stop in this little town, and I just wanted to, check on some stuff. I open the trailer door, and what do I see? I see the entire contents of a refrigerator all over the floor of our trailer. After like an hour and a half, 2 hours of driving, and our entire fridge is empty with like raspberries and blackberry. Like raspberries were washed into the wall. They hit the back wall, exploded, and raspberry stuff is everywhere. Luckily, none of my beer, they all rolled out too, but none of my beer broke. Thank goodness. That would have been a real mess.
It's the important stuff.
Sarah had a couple, had some like Spindrift seltzer water stuff she drinks, and Perrier. One of each of those broke. Luckily, those don't have a lot of sugar sticky content, but it made the entire floor like wet, right? Everything's wet, and it rolled up and down the trailer the whole time we were going. It just made a mess. But I'm glad we found it then and not when we got to camp, because nothing's worse than being in camp and all of a sudden seeing this mess. And plus, by that time, the food would have spoiled.
Yeah.
Most likely. Luckily, we were able to get everything back in before it got too warm. But that was our first rookie mistake. We won't make that again. We forgot to make sure the door was locked, because you got to push it firmly to get it to lock so it won't open up. We learned that lesson, so that won't happen next time. But other than that, everything went really well. I bought a generator, and I bought a big one, a 3,500 watt, because I wanted to make sure we would be able to, run the AC because it gets really hot, right? Right now in Idaho, it's really hot. It's 100, it's 100 degrees. Right now it's under 100, but it's been in the hundreds, and in that area too was in the high 90s. And so I got a nice Champion 3,500 digital inverter. Is that what it's called? Whatever thing. And I was worried it was gonna be too loud, but you know what? That thing whispered quiet. I mean, it's really nice, and it worked perfect. It was able to cool down the trailer when we were in there fixing food and doing dishes and getting ready for bed, which was nice. You don't have to go to bed with a steaming hot trailer.
That's always a win.
Yeah, that worked well. And we bought a fire pit, a propane fire pit. Now, my neighbors, my friends, they like building campfires and stuff. I'm too lazy for that. I just whip out the nice fire pit, 24-inch propane fire pit, plug it into my extra propane tank, light that thing up, and I've got a beautiful fire with heat and no smoke blowing in my eyes. So you know what? Who's the winner here?
That's half the bad. That's half of the experience, though. You gotta smell like you camped, not like you just went to the propane store.
Yeah. But, so yeah, that's what. But the problem is I struggle sleeping. I can fall asleep pretty easily, but I wake up, throughout the night, and then I usually am up by 3. I mean, I wake up at 3:30, and I'll typically stay in bed now until 4:45 or 4:45.
Oh,
that's what I've been doing since I had COVID, because it really took me out, and I had to stay in bed longer to try to have enough energy to make it through the day. And I woke up the first night, I woke up at 3 a.m. wide awake, like, I can't. And I just like rolled around, trying to, it was cold outside too, because it was, close to 100 in the day, drops down to, in the 30s, 40s at night, in the 40s, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets pretty cold. And so I tried to go outside so I wouldn't disturb Sarah, but I was like, it's too cold. And then finally about, 5:30, I went out there and started a propane fire and got my sweatshirt on, my hoodie, and got my book and my tea. And I was out there reading for about 3 hours before Sarah got up, and then I made breakfast and stuff. But that it's okay. I'll learn to sleep better, but the bed's super comfortable. That aftermarket bamboo memory foam mattress they put in. Wow, that sucker is super comfortable. Really good mattress.
Yeah, we got one of those off of Amazon a couple years ago, and it's doing pretty good.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was worried the memory foam wouldn't be supportive enough for me, but it's really supportive.
Well, Matt Knight said, let's camp sometime. And he said, a weight distribution hitch with a stabilizer bar is worth the money.
Got it.
And last tip, buy the RV antifreeze now while it's cheap and in stock.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. I will make sure I do that. I'll go to Walmart or wherever I grab a gallon of that stuff or whatever I need. But yeah. So yeah, I'll have to make it out to New York one day. Probably not for a little while. I do have a trip that we are planning, and I've already been in talks with Eric Gronley that we'll be meeting up in June of next year. So anyone out there in the Midwest area, I guess it's Midwest, right? No, what is
the north, mid-north. I don't know.
Mid-north. Anyone in the South Dakota, Minnesota, even Wisconsin, if you want to come out. I already have a trip planned to be in South Dakota, and I'm going up to near Minneapolis to visit with Eric, and maybe we can get together in Minneapolis if you guys want to meet, and we can go grab some beers and have a little mini Tap to Craft meetup while I'm out and about. But that is our first big trip that's going to be a couple weeks long that we're planning for next year. Okay, I got sidetracked.
We did.
Let's get the show started now, because people don't want to hear me talk about camping. They want to hear me talk about beer. And but before we get into the beer talk, I want to let anyone know or new that's listening to Tap to Craft podcast know what we're all about. We are an educational podcast focused around celebrating all things craft beer, because we want to assist you along in your craft beer journey and adventures. And you are listening to episode 235. Recording on Monday, July 24th, 2023. We are live on Facebook. And if you would like to join us during our recording session sometime, you can do that easily just on the Monday before release at 8:30 Eastern time. Look for the Facebook post and join us. And in this episode, we are going to learn about the collapse of Anchor Brewing. We're going to go into some details here. Find out. Yeah, that's right where Chris is at Anchor in San Francisco. And we also have a listener provided article discussing the death of beer festivals. Wow, this kind of goes into what we were talking about a few shows ago about whether or not beer festivals are really relevant in today's age. Well, maybe they're not. As well as some great beer conversation along the way. And of course, Chris and I would like to thank all of our Patreon supporters, because this episode is brought to you in part by our satisfied Patreon supporters like Mike Allen, Bill Schlemmer, Kevin and Amanda Argauer, Mark Reedy, Mike Blanchard, Tara Carlson, and Jim Kutso, and Alex Fuchs, who are our virtual producers, and Tom Byrne, Jeff Seiler, Johan Halberg, Chad Lamassa, Mark Church, and Eric Gronley, who want to buy us a virtual beer. If you enjoy the content we provide, we invite you to support the show by toasting your host or buying us a virtual beer or even becoming a virtual producer. You can explore the options on our support page by visiting patreon.com/tapthecraft. We do have a YouTube channel. Chris is currently getting us all up to date with all of our video episodes that we've done since we've been doing this live on Facebook the last few years. So you can go back and watch us live if you weren't able to catch us live on our Facebook page, which is, or not Facebook, YouTube page, which is youtube.com/tapthecraft. And we did get some feedback. Wow, Chris, I've been
did you ever get our Tin Tackers winner. Did you ever get
No,
their address?
no. Mark Reedy hasn't listened. I hope he's okay.
I even tagged him in it and everything.
Wow,
I don't
man,
know.
I hope he's doing okay. Mark, hey, send us your address so we can send it to tintackers.com and send out your prize. Come on, man, you can do it. And I hope you're okay. Hope you're doing okay. Okay, Chris, we got some feedback. You want to go ahead and read our first
I
feedback?
will definitely do that. That's coming from Alex Fuchs. He responded to the episode 234 Facebook post. He said, I remember that night at the opening of Mother Earth. See, everything's going great today. I remember the opening of the Mother Earth tap room in Boise was great fun, close to the fire pit, and then at Barbarian, where I probably caught my COVID. Really unforgettable night. Cheers from the Beer Stein in Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah, Alex is in Oregon right now, and he's also there. I mean, I don't know if it was a planned trip. I think he was there for work, but his brother and sister-in-law and their kids, his niece and nephew, are there also visiting, and they've been drinking in Eugene. And they were just today at Freem Family.
Oh, wow.
What's it called? Freem Family
Brewers.
Brewers, I think. Yeah. Which is great. I love, well, everyone knows we love Freem. Yeah. Freem is great. So yeah, congrats. And thanks for the feedback, Alex. Yes, I also thoroughly enjoyed, even though we did catch COVID right after that, but it was still fun. We were there for the grand opening.
Probably where I got my COVID.
All right. So we also have some feedback from our buddy Jeff Seiler, who sent us an article to review. He sent this through Facebook as well, I think, right? I think it was Facebook. Yeah. It's called The Death of Beer Festival is Jolting, or The Death of Beer Festivals is Jolting the Craft Brewing Industry. It was written by John Frank, found on the Axios website. And I think this is Axios out of Colorado, just to give you guys some reference. I took some, I took some of the highlights here from that article, and I'll just go ahead and we'll just go read through this and see what they have to say about why beer festivals might be dying. So the craft beer brewing industry is souring on beer festivals, and it's leading to an existential crisis. Now, here's what first thing is the state of play. Once ubiquitous and popular major festivals in Colorado and nationwide are vanishing from the calendar this year amid tightening economic conditions and fatigue among fans. More than a half dozen breweries and industry pros tell Axios Denver. Others that remain are not selling out in minutes and drawing dozens of breweries and thousands of fans, or not selling out in minutes and not drawing dozens of breweries and thousands of fans as they did in the industry's pre-pandemic heydays. You know what, Chris? I'm also having trouble talking. So you know what? We're gonna go back and forth on this.
Yes,
How about you go and read the next paragraph?
So why does that matter? Festivals are showcases of craft beer's boom and key marketing opportunities for breweries. But their decline is the latest sign of trouble after 2022 represented the industry's first static production year in memory, other than COVID-plagued 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you want me to get this one too?
Oh, wait, COVID-plagued 2020.
Yeah, COVID-plagued 2020.
Yeah, you can read the next one too.
We should just keep drinking. This is going to be a fun show then.
Yeah.
So what's happening? Well, two premier festivals that draw the nation's best brewers, Breckenridge Big Beers and the Weldworks Invitational, decided not to host the big price tag events this year after seeing waning interest and rising cost for similar events nationwide. Earlier this year, the Oregon Brewers Festival, which started in 1988 and became one of the nation's largest, canceled its 2023 event and hit an indefinite pause amid falling attendance and tightening finances for breweries. Yeah,
so we've already talked about that event. That was part of the article. The episode we had talking about is, are beer festivals as relevant as they once were? So yeah, there's just more signs that more festivals around the country are kind of slowing down and canceling because people aren't as interested as they were, and maybe they just don't have the money either, the finances to go and pay all this.
Oh, my buddy Daniel Strong just hopped on with us. How you doing, buddy? Hey, yes, I will be in Vegas in September. We were just talking about that because I'm getting rid of this beer that I bought in Vegas last September, and I need room in the cooler for it.
That's right. That's right. Well, here's what they're saying. Quote, "It's not the same. You've kind of been saying or seeing a shift," says Christian Popchef, the director of experience at WeldWorks Brewing in Greeley, Colorado. Quote, "The pre-COVID was definitely at a peak for sure, but the interruption resets people's thinking about beer festivals," end quote. And let's just read between the lines here. Long in need of a reinvention from the sloshy reputation, many beer festivals took note and recalibrated to provide a more intimate experience for the beer fans and make it more economically viable for brewers who often lose money because they donate beer and have staffing costs. And the last quote here is, "We always ask ourselves, is it going to give us the return of attending this event?" says Jeff Smith, the owner and head brewer at Lukey in Arvada. So it sounds like, yeah, that things are, they're just not looking. I like the idea that, and that's what we were trying to get at with our episode, was things need to change, right? We're not saying that beer festivals aren't fun, and but just that they've changed over the years, and people really need to have that either intimate or get that cost per that cost
per attendee.
Yeah. Make it so they feel like they're getting their value, right? And that's what we were focused on. And I think that's the same thing they're saying is, hey, let's make it so that it can draw in the crowd that really wants to come and not just expect that people are going to come because it's available and have all these tickets. So,
yeah. And it kind of from a financial standpoint, I mean, if you think about it, I don't know what it costs to brew. I don't know, maybe one of those 5-gallon kegs worth of 5 to 7% IPA, but I'm sure it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 to $30. And then they're just donating that plus the time of employees and staff coming out there, regardless if it's the owner or staff, and price for the cost of employees is going up. And
yeah,
I mean, it's the whole purpose of it, at least to what I feel beer events are for, is to just, hey, it's a marketing thing. Hey, let's get our beers out there. Let's let everybody know what we're able to produce, some of our biggest and best maybe. And then
that's the key. Yeah.
And the people that want to do that to appreciate the beers seem to be far and few between. The people that go, I'll spend $75 and go get shit faced when all you can drink kind of place event. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
it really does, especially with the way that everybody's finances seem to be going. So
yeah, things just get more expensive. It's just not. Yeah, it has to be that the brewers have, and the different brewers, they need to feel that the amount they're spending is going to provide that benefit. So. Okay, thank you, Jeff, for providing that article. I don't visit Axios, but it was a fun article to read and get a little different perspective, especially in a big beer city like Denver, having these issues. And WeldWorks, we all talk about WeldWorks.
You mean WeldWorks?
Oh yeah. Oh, nice. All right. We have a voicemail number. We love getting voicemails. If you would like to get your voice on the air and ask us a question or just tell us how great we are, you can do that easily by calling 208-536-3359. Or if you don't like numbers, maybe it's easier for you to remember 208-53 oddly. Just give us a call and let us know what you have to say. And if you'd like to contact the show in a different way, you can send us an email with your questions or comments through taptocraft@gmail.com. Or again, eventually I'm going to remove this Twitter and Instagram @taptocraft, because Twitter, I guess, is changing to a different name now, X or something like that. I don't know. I was gone. I was away, and then all of a sudden I saw some
Yeah, we'll see what happens with
April
that.
Fool's joke or something that about
We'll
changing
see
your
what
name.
happens.
But yeah, we are on at Tap to Craft on those two platforms, and of course we are on Facebook at facebook.com/Tap to Craft, and we have a website at taptocraft.com. And talking about our website, remember I kept talking about linking to Linktree. Well, guess what? I made a page, easy to get to our Discord server. Just go to the page taptocraft.com/Discord. It'll automatically take you to our Discord page where you can sign up or join the channel and interact with us on a more personal social media experience.
We just have to get used to doing it. That's all.
Yeah. Of course, I need to go back. I haven't checked Discord for a week, so my apologies. I'll get on there tomorrow when I think about it.
It's only a week, huh? Good for you. You're doing a lot better than I have. Sorry, guys.
And I am going to make a page for the Linktree. I just didn't have time to do it before I went on my camping trip, but I'll do the same thing. I'll make a taptocraft.com/Linktree, just one word, so you guys will easily be able to get to that site, which will list a bunch of links to all kinds of stuff. All right, Chris, I'm tired of talking, but I want the conversation to continue because now it's time to untap the craft and see what our listeners are drinking according to Untappd.
Well, if you want us to read your check-ins on this segment, make sure you follow me on Untappd at MCK1345, and we'll read your check-ins approximately 24 hours before we record. And we're going to start off with Chris Dean, who is drinking Dark Lord.
Oh,
I haven't heard of that one in a long time.
Yeah.
Dark Lord, My Rod, My Comfort from 2020. I kind of had to say it that way on purpose. My rod.
My rod.
He said
this
is a titan of a beer, aged 3 years by now, seasoned to perfection. Smoky to the initial taste, followed by the sweetness and the fragrance of Scotch. Boozy, but not overpowering. Truly stellar. Thank you, Martin D. Cheers, Beer World. 4.5 cap rating to go along with that one. Next on our list is going to be Alex Fuchs, checking into a beer that I can't read the name of by New Pioneer Brewing Company, and he just says, really not bad.
So, yeah, that's an Israeli. That's Gilad's brewery, New Pioneer. So that's the one I've been drinking. The beers I have, the mead and the other ones is from that. So good.
Terrific. Craig Andrew is checking into Malt Disney World, or as what most people know it as, is Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. Looks like him and Robin are hanging out in North Carolina. He's drinking a Ruthless Rye IPA by Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. He said hardly any bitterness, sweet and fruity. 3 3/4 caps for that check-in. We've got David Martin checking into a key lime cheesecake by Low Tide Brewing at the Harris Teeter Tavern. Not sure where that is. Wow. He said it has a strong bite at first, and then it settles down a bit as you drink more. Very subtle cheesecake flavors. It's 3 3/4 caps for that one. Low Tide Brewing, based out of Johns Island, South Carolina. Moving up, JC is drinking a Dark Apparition by Jackie O's. Nice. Always a favorite when I can get it. No notes, but a 4 cap rating. Is that in a can? Oh my gosh, everything's going to a can. It is in a can. It's in a 12-ounce can. Everything's moving to cans, Denny.
Yeah, it's easy.
I was feeling I was looking at the bottle openers and stuff that I have, whether it's
like there's no use for them anymore.
They're going to be pretty much just paperweights after a while.
Yeah, pretty soon the kids aren't going to know what they are.
Right. Yeah, they're going to be cassette tapes, and then you'll hand them a pencil, and they won't.
Yeah, that 21-year-old first getting into craft beer is like, what is that thing on your keychain?
Your beer used to be in glass. Glass.
So archaic.
Yeah. Florida Steve is checking into a Yellow Puffs by Angry Chair Brewing. I want to know if that's still vanilla-y and sweet, Steve. Usually those vanilla flavors fall out after a few months. But anyway, passion fruit heavy, tart and sweet, marshmallow punches through in the finish. So there's my answer. With a 4 cap rating to go along with that. Bill Schlemmer is drinking a
Bill.
double dry hopped Monster Bird by Phase 3 Brewing. And he said, malt forward, nice double, not tasting much citrus or mango, but a 4 cap rating to go along with that beer. This one's in a can too. Eric Gronley is drinking a Spotted Cow by New Glarus Brewing Company in a can.
Wow.
It's not. It's a very shiny bottle. My favorite type of smuggling is getting a pack of these back on this side of the river. Happy Monday. It is in a can. All right. Happy Monday. 4 1/4 caps to go along with that check-in. Jordan Cohen is drinking a Ghost in the Laboratory or Ghost in the Laboratory, depending on how you say it. Laboratory by Equilibrium Brewery. He picked this one up at the brew shop and he gave it a 4 cap rating. Yeah, that beer. That's
I was looking for the bottle and it was right in front of me.
That's vintage. Yeah, it's vintage because it came in a bottle.
This is a classic. I will never give this up now.
Yeah, it's like a cassette tape. He's also got a candle lit next to his beer that he's drinking. And the candle is a hoppy IPA candle, craft beer candle. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Just getting the whole experience, the smells, the tastes. Very nice. All right. Jeff Seiler drinking a 10 years of High Wire bourbon barrel aged triple blend by none other than High Wire Brewing. And he says another big, delicious anniversary beer, 10 years for High Wire. And today is my 10th year anniversary of joining Untapped. What are the chances of that? I'll celebrate this Saturday at High Wire's Small Batch Beer Fest. So they're still having beer fests.
Oh, okay.
He said with more than 30 breweries. Can't wait. Half of those breweries are probably right there in Asheville. I don't know. But he tagged us in it, Denny. He gave it a 4.5 cap rating to go along with it. Sounds absolutely delicious. Mr. Chad Lamassa is continuing his check-in streak with a beer called Neon Snowpocalypse by Rogue Ales. Gave it a 3.5 cap rating, and his notes were, it's fine.
It's okay.
It's fine. Meh. Tara Carlson is drinking a Beach Report by Allagash Brewing Company.
Oh, is it up in Maine?
I don't believe so because she said I'm multitasking, baking, and Bachelorette. I guess that's back on the air again. So I guess that's why they're not on watching us. Good job, Allagash. Oh, she said baking and Bachelorette and beer. Good job, Allagash. 4 1/4 caps for that one. I toast that so she doesn't yell at me.
That's awesome.
Matt Knight is drinking a Sea Breeze Summer Ale by Three Heads Brewing. Ooh, I've got one of those in the fridge now. Nice and malty with a good hint of lemon. Such a nice, light, crisp beer to have while unpacking from the Florida trip. The pick doesn't do it justice to the amazing can art, which is a reference to the local Sea Breeze amusement park. I can vouch for him. It's a pretty cool label. Let me hit refresh here and make sure we got them all. And that's what everybody's drinking.
Wow, great variety of beers. Some aged ones as well. Some beers that weren't in cans now, which is also, that's a sign of the times.
I very much, I've been saying that for at least 12 to 18 months now. It's bottles are going bye-byes.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to ship. They're not as cans are a lot stronger. I mean, I think the last time I sent you beer, Denny, I was like, I'll just wrap it up real quick and just in the box it goes. And I was like, if it breaks, it breaks. But it doesn't. You can beat the crap out of aluminum cans and they hardly ever pop.
Yeah. Well, so it's funny you say that. Remember I told you that my beer cans rolled back and forth. I had 2 Jim Dandy 5-year beers that when I gave one to my buddy Corey, who's going to, hopefully he'll check in. He says, wow, I can tell this one took a beating in the trailer.
Right?
It was literally beat up. And he's like, and there's one like almost a puncture. He says, wow, this came close. I'm like,
yeah, I
got lucky that none of my beer got damaged. But yeah, those cans can take a pretty good, as long as it doesn't hit a sharp corner. The sharp corners will kill it every time. But I think I'm wondering if there's a different thickness of aluminum for 12 ounce versus 16-ounce cans, because the two that had problems were 12-ounce cans, and the 16-ounce cans didn't have
All right.
problems.
John Ream, our beer people. Is there a difference in density to these cans?
Yeah, thickness, or maybe some cans are just made better. But the Jim Dandy cans held up, did not puncture when they were struck sharply by my crazy driving.
Well, they're Dandy cans. What did you expect?
Well, the other thing too is that we have to go over like some pretty severe mountains, and it's going like, a good grade up and a good grade down and up and down. So those cans were rolling back and forth pretty severely. So good on it. All right. Well, that's enough talk about that. It's, what, we're rolling right through this episode because we're both tired, and I don't want to keep us here all night, but we've got a good topic to talk about in our Brew Buzz segments. And the Brew Buzz is devoted to discussing various beer-related topics. And this week we learn about the collapse of Anchor Brewing. And I think in a few shows we mentioned some of the things that have been happening slowly with Anchor Brewing, and now everything's kind of come to an end and a possible rebirth. So we're going to talk about that. And I went and found a couple articles on the internet. The first one is Desperate Times, Anchor Brewing exits national distribution, ends Christmas ale, found on the American Craft Beer website.
That's the one I'll definitely miss.
For sure. And then the other article is Anchor employees launch bid to rescue iconic brewery from liquidation, written by Dave Infante, found on the VinePair website. And here's a little extra thing. If you want to learn more about the history and detail of Anchor Brewing, our friends over at It's All Beer Podcast, another Boise craft beer podcast, they deal mostly in news. They just released an episode that I listened to that I really enjoyed, that they go in detail about the history and about how the steps went along where it slowly started the demise of Anchor Brewing. And I have the link to their episode called Farewell to Anchor that will be in the show notes. So if you want to go listen to some more details about an hour-long podcast that just is all about this Anchor Brewing thing, and go visit my friends at It's All Beer Podcast. All right, so I'm going to start the stuff off here, and we're going to start off with the beginning of the end. Whoa, wow. How did this all start? So in mid-June of this year, the once nationally distributed Heritage Brewery announced they will no longer be available in 49 states, limiting its sales to only California, which generates 70% of their current income. Once a symbol of both the history and vitality of American craft beer biz, Anchor Brewing was wedded to a national distribution model that most up-and-coming craft breweries aspired to at that time. The more states your beers were in, the better. That was the whole way that craft beer back in the, actually, I'll say probably looking at more right at the beginning of the 2000s is when I think this more getting out of your local area and moving more regionally into states next to you and then moving further out. The whole goal was to get your beer out as far as you can. Yeah. So you have more people wanting it, and there's more demand, and you produce more and sell more, and it was all going to be great, right? This is what Stone did. This is what Lagunitas did. This is what Sierra Nevada did. This is what New Belgium did. They all these bigger breweries had the same idea that, hey, make the beer, get it out, and as you expand and get more demand, you're going to make more money. This was great when there wasn't as many breweries producing like super local beers, right? Now every town has a brewery almost. And in bigger towns have 20 or 100 breweries, right? You have a variety of stuff you can get right here locally. Why do people need to drink stuff from 5 states away, or maybe across the country? So that was the way so this is what Anchor did too. They went to 49 states. I'm guessing the only one they didn't go to was Hawaii, right? Or Alaska, one of those two, because it cost too much to ship outside of the continental US. So, all right. So that's what the model they were doing for so many years. But as craft beer fans migrated to a smaller uber local brewers in their own cities, where the offerings were ever changing and the beer dependably fresh, Anchor's national distribution model became a curse, as it did for other craft pioneers like Stone Brewing. In 2017, Anchor Brewing, which was owned at the time by the Griffin Group, an investment firm group that also held minority interests in BrewDog, was sold to Sapporo, a Japanese beer major, hoping to cash in on the American craft beer revolution. Now, I'll just finish this off and I'll give a couple thoughts. That acquisition was an $85 million deal. It further alienated Anchor's core fans. The brand was no longer considered true craft beer, according to the National Trade Group, the Brewers Association. So again, listening to It's All About Beer, it's all about beer. I think that's what, yeah.
It is.
It's all beer. It's all beer.
It's all beer.
They made some good points here in the fact that what Sapporo was really looking for, and again, according to some of the articles that were released talking about from the employees of Anchor, is they were looking for a production brewery that could produce their beers in the US in a production manner. And Anchor Brewing just isn't that brewery, right? Anchor Brewing's using an old time open fermented, flat fermenting tanks, that can only produce so much beer, and their whole system wasn't designed for massive amounts of production. It was used specifically for their types of beers that they brewed in a slower fashion and not in a mass produced thing. So Sapporo made a mistake. Yeah. If they didn't want to keep the heritage. Now, let me just say something again before I give it to Chris. As Chris already mentioned, the only Anchor beer that I consistently drink every year during the time was our Christmas ale, the holiday ale, right? The Christmas ale that comes out at the end of the year, every year. I always bought that, always, for many, many years. I always would buy that beer. On occasion, mainly before craft beer boom really happened, I would buy some steam beer, some of the porter, some of their other offerings that were in our area, just as a one-off thing to try, but not as a daily drinker. The only beer that truly held that spot for me was that Christmas ale. I love that beer every year, and that is the sad part about this. So I am sad that Anchor is no longer around, because it's a huge history of craft beer, right? This brewery is one of the oldest ones.
127 years old.
Yeah, in the country, right? That's a long history to lose because a big corporation bought it and it didn't do what they wanted, so they just decided to close it down. All right, Chris, so let's go to the next session.
Well, there's angst amongst the fans. On January 25th, San Francisco's Anchor Brewing Company unleashed a maelstrom of criticism when it announced it. Yeah, that's a lot of criticism. When it announced that it was celebrating its 125-year history with a new look that sacrificed its hand-drawn artisan label artwork in favor of a more basic and, frankly, much blander generic look. And Anchor fans took to social media to voice their distaste with comments like this, quote, "There's a reason Budweiser and Coors don't do stupid shit like this, and their beer sucks," end quote. And fans questioned why Anchor Brewing would make such a drastic change to its look when it, quote, had one of the most aesthetically pleasing labels in the game. I would agree.
I agree too.
They're simple, but they look great.
Yeah.
Anchor tried to explain its decision as a revitalization effort that the company hoped would help it stand out on retail shelves, but most likely it did just the opposite. This is a quote from where's the name of the person? That's a long quote then. The economic impact COVID-19 had the economic impact COVID-19 had been brutal, and the beer biz never been more competitive. Okay. American Craft Beer website reported at the time, and while Anchor Brewing's new label design might help its beers stand out on retail shelves, that doesn't mean that they're more attractive or pleasing. Anchor Brewing's rich history and its unique steam ale are its greatest assets, and its new imaging doesn't do either justice. It's not over for Anchor Brewing, but clearly shedding its national distribution and limiting its existing sales footprint to its home state of California, can be seen as a life support move.
Now, keep in mind, this was taken from an article written a couple months ago in June.
Yeah.
Saying that, hey, this is, and that's what we were saying too. I think made a comment in one of the shows that hey, this if this move helps make him through the bad times, then good for him. I want him to survive.
Yeah.
I just won't drink Anchor beer anymore. But
we just won't be able to. That's all.
Yeah, but it happens. It just started falling apart just like rapidly, right? Went from that to liquidation of assets.
Yeah, it's and it seemed to happen quick. So, let's see. As the company ended, excuse me, 1 second, just a little sip of this beer, we'll be good to go. As is the company ending its famed Christmas ale, an ever-changing seasonal ale with unique hand-drawn artwork that was different from year to year as well. This is not sounding right in my head, Denny. I'm sorry.
It's that beer. It's that 13.5% beer.
Sure. Yeah. So unique hand-drawn artwork, and it changed from year to year. In addition to Anchor's defining steam ale, its annual winter seasonal was the only true craft thing that the brewery had continued to do. And now that too is gone. Anchor and their external public relations teams, that's a problem too. External public relations, come on, were pretty terse on the root causes of this move, according to the Beer Street Journal, only stating that the cutting of America's longest running Anchor Christmas ale was due to, what they said, time-intensive and costly brewing and packaging requirements. So will these moves help the once legendary beer brand survive and prosper?
Well,
we'll find out.
Let's find out. Let's find out if it is. So yeah, it is sad. Like, okay, let's talk about the rebranding, right?
Dumb.
It was dumb because they took an artistic and a very recognizable labeling and stuff. They could have changed the labeling and kept the aesthetic the same and just made it more modern without removing all the aspects, just making a name, like basically change it to just the name of the beer and a small little icon of whatever symbolizes that beer, and change the colors to wild colors, yellow and blue. And
you see what's behind me, Denny? Does that look like modern aesthetic to you?
Yeah, that's not modern. And so they kind of went away from it. Now, the first step was big beer buying it, and that pissed off
customers.
Drinkers, customers. Then they changed the labeling, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing?" I enjoy looking at this label, right? The labels were cool, and they, they mean, like, what if Samuel Smith's all of a sudden changed their labels to the same thing?
Nobody would buy
beers it. The labels are all, they're dated, but you know what? That's why you're drinking, right? You're drinking Samuel Smith because that's the way they do it.
But you can look at a shelves and shelves of beers, and you can scan those shelves back and forth, and all of a sudden you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
When somebody's
stands out.
Yeah. You know exactly what you're looking for, and to make an adjustment after 100+ years to what to what it looked like. And I get it, making the label a little more modern. Sure.
Mhm.
The paper that you use, the process you use to print it, the adhesive that you
Yeah.
use to put it on the bottle. Sure. Modernize the crap out of all of that. But you can look at Samuel Smith. I could look in seconds. I could find you one of those. I could find you in seconds an Anchor beer. And it's not hard to find. Nothing against Fremont, but the only way I know about this is because there's usually wax all over it and it's dripping down the bottle and it's got a similar label.
Yeah.
Lots of glitch behind me. But yeah, I mean, it was a good thing. People weren't looking for the new and modern thing. They were looking for a solid beer that a go-to beer.
Yeah.
And they done flubbed it up.
Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunate. Well, what's going on right now? Well, at a meeting on July 12th, actually, I said mid-July, but it was July 12th at Anchor Brewing. The executive told brewery employees that the historic San Francisco firm would be shut down after over a century and a half of business. 1 week later, employees have something to tell the executives. If you sell us Anchor, we'll figure out how to buy it.
I'd get in on that.
Yeah. In a brief letter shared with VinePair, the business agent for Anchor Brewing Union advised Sapporo USA President Mike Minami that workers of Anchor Brewing have met, discussed, and decided to launch an effort to purchase the brewery and run it as a worker co-op. Kind of like what
New Belgium does.
I think New Belgium has owner thing, and also Full Sail at one point. I don't know if they still do, but Full Sail was also independently owned by the employees. So yeah, it's a good option. Now, keep in mind, we also mentioned something else that was probably stirring up some contention with the brewery owners originally, is that this is a union. This is the first craft beer or not production beer thing that is using a union, right? There you got unionized. And so their 40 or so employees are all under a union. So that's also can be a problem depending on what contentions were made by the union for their employees. Maybe that was causing some heartache as well. All right. So he continues to say, "We are not asking for a handout or charity," wrote Pedro de Sa, a business agent at the International Longshore and Warehouse Union Local 6, which represents roughly 40 workers at the brewery. "All we want is a fair shot at being able to continue to do our jobs, make the beer we love, and keep this historic institution open. We do not want the brewery and the brand we love to be sold off before we even had a chance." De Sa, speaking on behalf of union workers who voted earlier in the day to take this step, asked Minami to respond by the end of the day on Friday, July 21st, indicating whether Sapporo USA was open to working cooperatively
Take a sip of your beer
and transparently through this process with the union, specifically with regards to creating the framework and raising the funds necessary for this purchase. And what did Patrick Macho, a production worker at the brewery and shop steward for Anchor Brewing Union, have to say? He says that the vast majority of the union's rank and file workers, as well as an unspecified number of managers, support the long shot effort. So wow, even the union workers and the management, which aren't union,
which
they all want
never happens, by the way.
Yeah, they all agree they don't want this to go down, which is great. Most of us that work here were born and raised here. We work here because we love it. We grew up in with steam beer, he tells VinePair. Now they'll try to save Anchor from the scrap heap. VinePair first reported that Sapporo USA was on the verge of selling or shuttering Anchor on the evening of July 11th. Since then, 12 hours after the initial report, Sam Singer, a representative for Anchor and Sapporo USA, issued a press release announcing the brewery would, quote, cease operations and liquidate the business following a combination of challenging economic factors and declining sales. And it says also that the release did not mention Sapporo USA, but current and former workers were quick to tell VinePair's Hop Take column that the parent company mismanaged the brewery into dysfunction. Wow. Big beer. As word spread of Anchor's imminent closure last week, San Franciscans flocked to the unmistakable Art Deco plant on Potrero Hill to pay their respects to the brewery that has kept the city by the bay stocked with steam beer since 1871. Lines at the neighboring Anchor public taps stretched around the block as people clamored to buy whatever beer was left in the tanks.
That's
All right,
a
Chris,
sad day.
Yeah, you can finish this off.
That's just sad. Well, what would happen to Anchor? In a year of searching, the company's release claims no buyer had emerged to acquire it whole as a going concern. The release did not state the price Sapporo USA was asking for the firm. It acquired Anchor 6 years ago in a provisional $85 million deal. So it was part of a bigger buy. Last week, Narragansett Beer circulated a petition to drum up support for rescuing the brewery. That's even cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And several private equity investors, perhaps impressed by the outpouring of local love for the August Old brand, expressed interest to this reporter about acquiring it. This past weekend, a handful of San Francisco entrepreneur types described to the hometown paper their plans for resurrecting Anchor. The ideas included a website to tease future crowdfunding opportunities and a reality show about bringing the idiosyncratic brewery, I'm so glad I nailed that word, back to life, working, titled, How Hard Could It Be? God, I say that every time I start a project that I've never done before. It looks like it'd be easy. There's the follow-up, guys. How hard could it be? Version 2. I mean, it doesn't look too hard. But the plan outlined last week in the release still stands: to turn Anchor over to an assignee for the benefit of creditors, ABC, a third-party manager tasked with the orderly wind down and sale of business and its assets to whoever would buy them and for whatever purpose. Does that mean that they're just like, well, we don't know if we're going to get what we ask for it, so if we can get some good, solid offers, we'll work with you.
Mm-hmm.
That might make it a little easier. Workers want to preempt Anchor's real estate, equipment, and intellectual property being sold off piecemeal to the highest bidders by acquiring it from Sapporo USA and running it as a co-op, says Matchell. We couldn't go down without some way of fighting for ourselves and the community that we love. I want this so much to happen. Oh my gosh, I want this to happen so much. This is like an underdog story of underdog stories.
Yeah, I hope that they're able to stop the piecemealing, because basically they're going to start selling off the assets, right?
Yeah,
Whatever it might be.
Here goes the brewing system.
Tanks,
Here goes
system,
the
everything.
tables. Here goes.
Yeah, maybe they'll sell off recipes, maybe names,
copyrights,
whatever. And people buy, other breweries or buy it. And now all of a sudden Budweiser has, Anchor Steam.
Oh God, no.
Right?
That's even worse than them
right?
taking over Goose Island. That was a sad day. And yeah. Could you imagine that? Anchor Steam by AB InBev.
Yeah. Yeah. Or how about just calling it AB Steam?
Oh no.
But yeah, it's So we will keep you informed on what happens. This is still fresh. I don't know what happened after Friday. Maybe some news was released today that I didn't have a chance to look at. This was all what I had to go off of this, when I got back yesterday. I put the show together pretty quick. This is the up-to-date by that day message that was given. So
Eric Gronley said 6 or 8 part docuseries, head full of steam. That's what it would be titled. We can workshop it. I'm in.
I like that.
I'm in. I'll be on the next flight out to Minnesota.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, that is our coverage of what the heck is going on with Anchor Brewing. Sad story. Hopefully it has a fairy tale ending. Stay tuned. All right, Chris, let's get into some more happy things like our new and noteworthy beer. Beer makes us happy. So what did you have to drink, Actually looks like you got a lot to drink.
Well, I didn't have a lot to drink. I actually put notes in there because I made. Well, come here then. Come on, say hi.
Cajun's back in there. Hi,
Cajun's
Cajun.
back in. Yeah, and his foot is stuck on my headphone wire. Good job, pal. Good job. All right.
I know you're a big guy, and Cajun looks bigger than you right now.
Cajun's he's a big dog. He's about 80 pounds. He's a big dog. Yeah, I had a few. There's only 3 beers in this mass of text, Denny, but I did have notes on things, which was weird. Yeah. But I got some good beers over the last couple of days, and I wanted to talk about them a little bit. And the first one, this was to clear out some space in my beer fridge. It was a beer from Angry Chair right here in Tampa called Futile Confession. And this was a beer that they put out in 2020. And this was actually given to me 10 months ago.
Okay.
You're annoying. You know that? You're cute. You're annoying. I gave this beer a 4.5 cap rating. Now, this beer came in a 24-ish ounce bomber, which there is no way I would have been able to drink this beer all by myself. No way in hell. Like, this is what I have left of my Dark Star. Mm-hmm. This is good. This has been good. So what I did allegedly is I took it with me when we went to dinner over to Gasparilla Pizzeria.
Oh, okay.
And I shared it. I shared it with what I did is I asked one of the owners if they would want to share it with me while I was there eating dinner. And I said, I got my full glass of, it's a little 5-ounce taster. I said, I got my full glass, pour yourself a glass, go give it to somebody, like go spread it out, let people try it. Like, it was given to me, so I really don't care. But I gave this one a 4.5 cap rating, and the notes that I have on it on Untapped are a little different than what I wrote here, but just big, chewy, sweet stout from Angry Chair. It's a barrel-aged stout with maple, coffee, and vanilla beans. Now, I didn't get much coffee in it, probably because of the age. So again, it was from 2020, so it's got 2.5, 3 years on it. And I was glad that I was able to share this one with the folks at Gasparilla Pizzeria. Just there's no way I would have finished that beer on my own without just sniff, right? Sniff the microphone without just getting super sick. All right, off you go. Oh no, he pulled my headphone out of the jack. Hang on, I'm coming. All right, we're back.
Difficulties. Okay.
Anyway, get a dog, they said. They're fun, they said. The next one on my list is from Leaven Brewing, and I've talked about this beer just a little bit. Actually, it was Jesus. I am covered in dog hair now. In episode 232, I think is where I saw it in the notes. It's called the Vanilla Goat, and the Goat is a oatmeal stout that they make. This one, they added some vanilla to it, and I bought a 6-pack of it a couple weeks ago, and man, it is so good. Nice. Then I gave this one a 4.5 cap rating. I was sitting out in the driveway waiting for the grill to heat up before we made dinner, and I just remember just sipping on it. So it's like 5% beer. It's just not super heavy. And after a while, I just realized, wow, this beer's gone already. It's a 12-ounce can, but it was a lot like. That's why we can't have nice things. You throw your toys around. It was a lot lighter than I expected, but it was just a nice, easy drinker, and just the right amount of vanilla sweetness to balance the roast of the oatmeal stout. Nice. And then my third one I had today from Barriehaus. Oh, it looks like all my beers are Tampa beers today.
Of course.
What a surprise. Is from Barriehaus Beer Company. Here's your fucking Hefe is the name of this beer. I had this one. We were clean. We went over and washed and vacuumed and cleaned Tina's car real quick, and then we were getting ready to go grocery shopping, and I went, yeah, we're all hot and sweaty. Let's go over to Gasparilla, grab a beer, then we'll go grocery shopping. And usually when I'm really hot, a Hefeweizen doesn't necessarily sound the best to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was from Barriehaus, and I couldn't really say no to it, and so I tried it, and I gave it a 4.25 cap rating. And the notes that I put on it was that the hef flavors, like the banana, the bubble gum, the clove, they were definitely there, but they weren't overwhelming, which thank God, because it was a little warm. We couldn't sit inside because there was a group that had kind of rented out the place. The local Rotary Club was in there, and it was actually refreshing to drink that beer while I was sitting out on the patio with Tina.
Nice.
So
Oh, good.
So we got 3 great Tampa beers on my new and noteworthy. And now, Denny, I want to hear about your new and noteworthies, because that first one, though.
I've got 2 very special beers out of 5 I think I have on my list, but I'll talk quickly about them. But first I need to give some, I think I mentioned in the last episode at the end of the show that I was meeting up with this friend of the show, Kirk Tabor, who moved from Portland to Boise. We were chatting and Untapped and podcast friends from when he was in Portland. He came to Boise, and we met up a couple of years ago, and we've been seeing each other off and on to drink beers together. And he always brings me great beer gifts that he has in his cellar. So I mentioned that I met him. I was going to go and do some whiskey, bourbon, Scotch tastings at his house. He's also a fine collector of nice whiskeys.
Hold that thought, Denny. I hate to interrupt you, but we just got a comment on Facebook from a gentleman named Mike Marcello. He said, "I love your podcast."
Oh, well, thanks, Mike.
I listen all the time. I like to listen when I'm enjoying a nice IPA, wearing my Princess Leia wig, Crocs, and a Hello Kitty thong.
Wow, that is awesome.
I don't know if we're being messed with right now because I said pictures or it didn't happen. Thanks for the support, Mike. We appreciate it. Cheers. His response was, and quickly, I want to smell Denny after he jogs.
All right. We got some super fans out there.
Oh, Mike, I'll go out and run in the Florida heat for you real quick. And then,
well, yeah, you didn't want to smell me yesterday when I got back and it was 100 degrees out here and I was unloading the trailer and washing it off and stuff. Yeah, I smell pretty right.
You guys got your 100 degrees. We're humid. Matt Knight said no New York beers. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. I've had one.
That's next episode.
Yeah, that's next episode. I've had one. Okay. And it was great. All right. Pardon the interruption.
So he invited me over. Kirk invited me over. I asked, hey, I'd love to try. I've been wanting to try good, I want to be trained. I want to be taught in how to enjoy bourbon and whiskey. It's just never been my thing.
Right.
He said, well, come on over. We'll do it. Remember I set in a date to do it on Memorial Day, and I forgot that I was going to Pocatello that weekend, so we had to postpone it. And then he said, busy June, we'll get together in July. Well, that July was last weekend before last. And we got together at his place. Sarah was in Pocatello. I was alone. And I went over to his place to try some whiskey and bourbons and Scotch. And but before we started that, he says, I want to share a couple beers with you that I've had in my cellar. I only have one of each of these. But I wanted to share it with someone special. And this is the time to do it. I said, well, that's great. Thank you, Kirk. And the 2 beers are Belgian beers from Cantillon. I swear I've had the one I'll talk about in a minute, or after this first one, I could have swore I had this before in a tasting in Israel or somewhere, but I didn't have it Untapped. So either got erased or I forgot, or I didn't have it. But Cantillon is a great, famous brewery in Belgium. And Kirk grabbed these beers when he was there in 2018 or 2019, last time he was there, and has been aging them. The first one is the Cantillon Kriek 100% Lambic. And this I gave a 5 cap rating. I mean, who wouldn't? And what I had said here, it says, another treat from Kirk. This 2018 bottle was fantastic. Light cherry flavor and tartness, a fantastic example of the style, and the age made it perfect 5 cap rating. I said another treat from Kirk, because the first treat he gave me was this other Cantillon beer called Rosé de Gambrinus. And I said, big thank you to Kirk for sharing this 2017 bottle with me. Really good fruit lambic with light raspberry flavor, lasting forever and into the finish. Not too sour, just the right amount of tartness. I gave this a 4.5 cap rating. So I like the Kriek a little bit better. I like both styles, but I felt the Kriek just gave me that. I think the aging on it was just right, and it just had everything that was good about cherry sour without the bad part of it. It was just so super smooth. So a big shout out to Kirk for letting me experience these beers and enjoying it. And that's how we started off of our whiskey tasting, which I went over there thinking I spent like 2 hours at his place, and I was there for like over 5 hours drinking beer and whiskey, which was great.
That sounds like a blast.
Yeah. So the next beers I'm going to talk about are, I talked about a couple of these last episode. Drekker Brewing is in Boise. And guess what? I'm still drinking, and they're still making my new and noteworthy list. And the first one I'll talk about is, well, you know what? I'm going to change it up. The first one I'll talk about is the one I got right here on my, well, no, I can't change it up. I got to keep the order because I have it in ranking from, okay, here it is. Drekker Brewing Company. There will be Jules Deluxe. It's a pastry sour, smoothie sour. And it says, it looks pretty ugly, but it tastes delicious. It is super creamy. It has that fizzy characteristic, like that ice cream punch with dry ice. You know how I don't know.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like Sprite and ginger ale with sherbet in it.
Yeah, sherbet. Yeah, sherbet. And it just like fizzes and foams up, and you put a dry ice in there and it just like extra amps it up. It tasted just like that experience. I remember when I had that type of punch. You get big vanilla cream, banana, and strawberry with a touch of orange in the finish. I like it. 4.75 caps for that beer. Really fantastic smoothie or pastry sour. I actually love that one. Why it's not a 5? I don't know, because I was giving away too many 5s and I just felt guilty. Sorry, Drekker. All right, the next Drekker beer, again, 2 Cantillon, 2 Drekkers. This one is called CHONK, Merica Cake. CHONK, Merica Cake. Okay. Another very well done pastry sour from Drekker. I do not want to drink these all the time, but once in a while, it's a nice treat. Thick and creamy berries, bananas and vanilla with a touch of tartness, even a touch of cake flavor as well. 4.5 cap rating. And the last beer I will talk about is from Jim Dandy Brewing. Yes, I did mention that weekend that I was drinking whiskey and bourbon and Belgian beers, my wife was in Pocatello. So when she's in Pocatello and I'm not there, she brings me back beer, and she brought me back the 5th year anniversary. They just celebrated their 5th year on July 4th, and I got a 4-pack of the 5-year beer. And it's a New England hazy, which all their year-end beers, I think, have been hazy beers. What I said about this, incredible aroma, ripe tropical fruit with a hint of coconut. Flavor is the same with a soft, pillowy mouthfeel, just a slight bitterness in the finish to round out the experience and keep the sweetness down. Great beer. Happy 5th anniversary. 4.5 cap rating. So those are my 5 new and early beers. So sometimes I only have none or 3. This week there was 5 I had to talk about. I was spoiled rotten with some great beer.
I feel like we're making up for last couple of episodes where we're like, I got one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't have any. I've been drinking some regulars. Just
it happens. It happens.
Now I had 3 with notes, and you were like, oh, here's this one and that one and that one. And our buddy Mike Marcello in the comments, I'll let you guys read that one. I feel like we're either being trolled or we're just somebody goofing around and having fun. But Mike, I miss you. just say that.
All right, Chris. It's getting towards the end of the show, but before we close out the show, we always want to let people know, or actually, we always want to raise a glass to people we like to celebrate in the episode. So, who would you like to raise a glass to tonight?
Well, I would love to raise a glass to Mike Marcello for your crafty banter back and forth.
Yeah.
Make sure you get a thumb in the coin return, just saying. And to listen, read the comments. Okay, guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to, I don't know where I come up with the stuff to reply to this guy either. But I want to raise a big glass to Matt and Lindsay Knight for stopping by our training facility with some delicious New York beers. And Matt, I know they're delicious because you picked them. I've only had one so far, and I know you're not angry or upset. You're just disappointed. But I will be we will be getting into those. We have a concert coming up this weekend. We probably are going to be taking those beers with us and taking pictures in West Palm Beach. So
nice.
But cheers to you guys. I'm glad to hear you guys are safe and sound at home after your 20-hour ride from Clearwater all the way back to Rochester. That drive, I don't care if it's 16 hours, 20 hours, 10 hours. It's a long drive, and you guys had kids with you, and wow. Yeah, so I'm glad to hear you guys made it home. Cheers to you guys.
Cheers.
And you're unpacking while you're listening to us. Again, thank you so much for stopping by. We were able to sneak a picture too while I was at work. They stopped by my business just to bring us beers, and we had a quick little beer trade. So thank you again, guys. Denny, who would you like to raise a glass to this evening?
Well, first off, I'll give our Patreon toast out to another local Boisean or near Boise, Tom Byrne. Cheers, Tom. Thanks for your support. And remember, Tom, we need to make up. It's been 2 years since I had COVID and I had to cancel our last meetup.
Got your COVID from Mother Earth, remember?
Yeah, let's get together.
But at Mother Earth.
Drink some beer, share some beers. Yeah, at Mother Earth maybe. So cheers to you, Tom. Thank you for your support. Also, cheers to Kirk Tabor. I already mentioned. Great host, provider of fantastic beer experiences, and fantastic bourbon, whiskey, and Scotch experiences. I was blown away. I learned so much. And I literally, in a week, I've drank almost a half of a bottle of Buffalo Trace straight bourbon whiskey.
Wow.
Which he also gave me that bottle as a parting gift, which was way over the top. I'm thoroughly enjoying it, drinking it straight up, no water, no ice, no nothing, just one finger pours and just sipping over, 30 minutes time and enjoying the flavors it gives. So I learned all that from Kirk. Thank you. And my buddy Mike Blanchard. It's been a busy time for me. He came into town. We got together. We barbecued. We ate. We drank. We visited. Cheers to you, Mike. Thank you for coming through town. Let me know and having us get together. That's fantastic. And of course, being a former serviceman, I always want to raise my glass and thank all those who have served and who are currently serving in the U.S. military services, protecting our freedoms. Thank you for your service. And I hope all who are deployed are able to return home safely soon to their families. And Chris, why don't you go ahead and raise a glass to our sponsor?
Want to raise a glass to the folks over at Tin Tackers, the provider of sweet metal beer signs that will make your walls happy. Tin Tackers has a vast selection of embossed aluminum beer signs, perfect for your garage, home bar, or man cave. They have the biggest selection with the best prices. They also have a mini Tacker of the Month club, which is where I got this last episode. A club just for craft beer lovers who collect tin tackers. A surprise in your mailbox every month. Visit their website at tintackers.com and use the promo code TAPTHECRAFT at checkout to save 10% on your entire order to let them know we sent you.
That's right. Do it. Tap the craft. All one word. Get your discount. You deserve it.
Treat yourself.
All right. You can find the beers and the links to the articles mentioned in the show notes located on the show post at tapthecraft.com. And it is last call. It is time to bring the show to a close. We want to thank you for downloading, listening. We ask you to please tell a friend about our show. And of course, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And as a reminder, we release a new show every 2 weeks. Now go out there and spread the good word of craft beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.